Hello, my name is Jaclyn Kim and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to teach you how to change your strings on your violin. But before we begin, I want you to keep a few things in mind. First of all, if you have a private teacher, make sure you ask them before you change your strings. They might want to change them for you, or they might want to teach you themselves, and I think it's always best to follow your private teacher's instructions. If you're trying to figure out which strings to buy, I will have a list of my favorite strings in the description below. A lot of violin players prefer certain strings because they sound the best on their violin. If you are unhappy with the way your violin is sounding, try a different brand, and that may work better for your instrument. Because some instruments are more bright and some instruments are more warm, different strings can have a different sound on different violins. Right now, I'm going to be changing my strings to Vision Titanium Orchestra, and I've actually never tried these. I've tried Vision Titanium Solo, and I think I've tried Vision Orchestra, but I haven't tried Vision Titanium Orchestra, so it's a little bit of an experiment. Another thing to remember when you're changing your violin strings for the first time is that your pegs are not like guitar pegs or ukulele pegs. They're very, very different. For guitar, you can turn your pegs a lot, and you have to in order to get the string tight. For violin, you only have to turn a couple of times. If you tighten your strings too much, the string will probably break. And then the last really important thing I want you to keep in mind is that you should only change one string at a time. So if you change the D string, you'll take off the D string and put on the new D string. Do not take off multiple strings at once, especially all four of them, because remember your bridge is not glued down. And so if you take off the strings all at once, there will be no more tension, the bridge will fall, and chances are your sounding post inside will also fall because you no longer have that tight tension. Now that we have those important things to remember, I am going to start with my A string. I think you can start with any string, it doesn't really matter as long as you just start with one string only. So I'm going to begin with my A string. Your strings should be wrapped away from you. So to loosen your string and to take it out, you're going to turn your peg towards you. It's easiest for me. I like doing it with my violin on my stomach, and I'm just pushing it this way, but I'm going to turn it this way so you can see. So I'm just turning it towards you, and then as it gets loose, you can just pull it out. Not a big deal. And then here, make sure you take out this part as well. And it just has a little ball at the end, and you slide it out. And now you can see that there's a groove in your bridge and there's a groove on your nut, and when you place the string back, you want to make sure you place it in the grooves. I usually keep my old strings in the packet of the new strings I just got as emergency strings, so they're not very helpful, only in the case of an emergency. Let's say I'm at a gig or at a performance and my string breaks. Well, I have a spare. It's not the best spare in the world, but it will get me through. And if you're a teacher, these also come in handy in case your students break strings, because students tend to break strings more often than a professional, I feel. So now you can see that your peg is actually not glued in or anything. You can take it out and you can see that the peg has holes in it, and that's where you stick your string through. So you can put that back. If your peg tends to slip, you've noticed, you can rub a little graphite from a pencil on it now, because it's an easy time to do it. Or if your pegs are too stuck and they're hard to turn, you can apply some of the Original Hill composition for pegs which have ceased to turn smoothly by Will and Sons. I'll leave this in a link in the description below. If you buy your strings in a set, there will be 4 little envelopes. This one says violin D, so that's your D string, violin G, G string, violin E, E string, and violin A, A string. So I just took off my A string, so I'm going to open up this A string envelope. And this is the A string. So the colorful part that's really long here goes in your peg, and the part that has a little metal ball goes in at your tailpiece. So I'm going to take the colorful part and I'm going to stick it in the hole in the peg. I'm going to wrap the string on one side of the little tail sticking out, and then I'm going to wrap the string now around the other side of the tail. And then I'm going to continue to wrap it a couple of times. And as you're doing this, you want to be pushing the peg into the peg box. Now, when I'm about halfway and it's not slipping, which means that I've pushed it in enough, I'm going to place the silver ball into the tailpiece and make sure that it's nice and secure. You don't want this part to slip out. You want to make sure that the string is lining up with the nut groove and the bridge groove. Make sure that's nice and snug. And as you get tighter, pluck it a couple times so you can hear what pitch it is. You want to make sure that you don't overturn the peg and get the string too tight and then it'll break. So now that you've done that, take a look at your bridge and make sure it's not leaning one way or the other, because we're pulling the string towards your peg, so naturally your bridge will start to lean a bit. You want to make sure the bridge is always staying nice and straight. Okay, next I want to talk about the E string, because the D and G string are going to be exactly the same thing. The E string, however, might be different. So on the E string, you either have a ball E string or a loop E string. A ball E string will be exactly like the strings I just showed you. It has a little silver ball. But a loop E string is when there's a little hook on top of your tailpiece and you loop your string around the hook. So the loop is like this and the hook is like this, and you just loop it on the hook. It's actually, to me, easier than the ball. But some violins have a ball E string, some violins have a loop E string. I don't really know why there would be two different ways, probably for sound or buzzing, or just depending on your tailpiece, the type of tailpiece you have. I'm sure some people prefer one way or the other. I like loop because it's just easier, but I didn't buy my violin or my tailpiece for that reason. It just happened to be. So that's the kind I have. I have the loop kind. When I bought this, I don't think I told them, and I don't know if it always matters anyway, but they're actually made the same. So this E string, yeah, so this E string that I have has a ball in it, but if you can tell, the loop is just around the ball. So you can pinch this and take the ball out just like that. That was really easy. So now I just have the ball, and now my E string is a loop E. So even if you accidentally buy the wrong E string and you buy the ball E string and you have a loop, then you can just take the ball out. Now, if you bought a loop E string and you need a ball E string, I don't know how to fix that situation because I don't think strings ever come with extra little silver balls. And then usually your E strings will come with this little plastic part, and this plastic part is supposed to go over the bridge because the E string is so incredibly thin, it can snap quite easily. And it normally snaps wherever there is the most tension. So there's a lot of tension at the bridge, and there's also tension by the nut. So sometimes when it breaks, try to figure out where it broke, and then you could figure out, oh, there was a little too much tension there. Or if it keeps breaking at the bridge, then maybe there's something a little too sharp, which could cause the problem too. However, on my E string bridge, I already have a little plastic part on my bridge, so I don't actually need this. And I've noticed that sometimes when I do use it, it ends up buzzing. So when I play my violin, I have this buzzing issue. So I don't use it anymore. And I don't have a problem with my E strings breaking, so I don't need it. So just like my A string, I'm going to turn my E string peg towards me. And then once it becomes loose, I can just pull it out and then just take it off from the loop. Save the old string if you want. And now I'm going to take the colorful end of my string, the long part, stick it in the peg all the way through so there's a small tail, wrap it on one side of the tail and then the other side of the tail, and then wrap it nice and neat. Try not to make it go crisscross or overlap anything because that's not pretty. I hooked the loop on my hook and I'm placing it in the middle of the grooves on my bridge and the nut, tightening it a little bit more slowly. And try not to go too high. Check the bridge, make sure it's not leaning, it's nice and straight. And if you have fine tuners, now is the time to loosen the fine tuners and make sure they're all evenly tall, and then use the pegs to tune them a little bit higher. After you have all of your strings changed, now is the time to tune them. So use a tuner. If you're not sure how to tune, I'll link a video in the description below all about tuning. Make sure you tune them as well as you can. However, because the strings are new, they are tight right now, but they're going to loosen, especially within the first 48 hours. So you're going to feel like your violin is flat. It keeps going flat. It keeps going out of tune. So you're going to have to keep turning the pegs just a little bit, like a little, and that's enough usually. If you use your fine tuners, that's fine. However, your fine tuners will get really flat and tight. So you're going to have to loosen them and then use your pegs again. If you practice a lot within the first 24 or 48 hours, you'll have to tune a lot, but this will help break in your strings faster. A key thing is to remember to look at your bridge. Make sure it's not leaning towards your pegs or leaning towards your fine tuners, but most likely it will be leaning towards your pegs. Make sure it's straight up and down. If you constantly have a bridge leaning, 1, it will warp, and that's not good. 2, it might break, and that's not good. Or 3, it will fall, and that's also not good. You really want your bridge to be as straight and tall as possible. Okay, I hope that wasn't too difficult or too confusing of an explanation on how to change your strings. If it's a little too stressful for you, or you're still unsure, or you're having problems, try to take your violin to either your private teacher or to a violin shop. They can most definitely help you change the strings and maybe even show you in person, because that might give you a better look or give you a little bit more confidence. Now, if you do break a string when you're changing your strings, it's not a huge deal, although you will have to buy more strings, which can get a little expensive. But breaking a string, especially when you're trying to change them for the first time, is a common mistake. It happens to everyone. I think everyone who has been a professional violinist will tell you, yes, I've broken a string. If you have any questions, please leave a comment below and I'll be sure to answer them. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you. Do you want to come on my lap? Do you want to come here? No? Come here. No? Okay, you stay down there then. Mia? I can't believe you peed in my floor. That's not where you pee. Mia, do you see yourself in the mirror? Why are you crying? You wanted to hang out with me. This is what you get for hanging out with me. I film videos. I have to. I have to film a video. Do you want to be in my video? Say hi. Say, please like and subscribe. Say, I'm the one making the noise in the background. I'm the one who just pee-peed on your floor. Is that embarrassing? I shouldn't put that on the internet. Expose you like that. Okay, you have to go. I'm sorry, you're talking too much. Come on.